Well, hi, ladies and gentlemen. Well, it's still Monday, October 15th, 2018. And, you know, you're probably right. I should probably make an entire class on this. But there's only so much that I like to talk about. You know, I like people to kind of go out and start searching on their own to understand what's happened in our history and how things have been used to keep us in the dark. And that was never God's intent. That's man's intent, because men know that having knowledge is power. And the most important power that they can exercise is power over your mind, over your will, over your thirst for knowledge, your inquisitiveness. You know, those types of things. So, you know, even I say, you know, I can't really go there, but it's not because I don't want you to know. It's because it'll make you fly apart as glass often. When you challenge somebody's traditions that they've long believed in, they can become pretty nasty, and often they do. And I saw an example of that. I was going through some of the basic comments in the chat this time on this last one that I did, expanding on the Paleo Hebrew and how it relates. You know, that just, you know, there's an old saying, don't cast your pearls before swine. Actually, Jesus said that, right? And I get examples of that all the time for the little bit that I talk about. People judging what I've done, what I do, what I believe in, etc., after their own reasons for doing the same things, if they were to do something similar. Their reasons are different than mine, and they project their reasons onto me. And we all do that to some extent. But with that introduction, what I wanted to do here today is, I've told you that the original Torah was written in one continuous run-on word. From the very first word of Genesis, actually from the very first letter of Genesis, the Beit, to the very last letter of Deuteronomy. It was all written as one long continuous run-on word, with no divisions, no breakdowns into sections, words, or anything. And people have a hard time understanding that because we think linearly in the East. And we don't understand the pictographic system and the sacredness of the language that we're dealing with here when we talk about Hebrew. So, I've shown you that Brashith means more than just in the beginning, that it's actually a story. Then this morning I did a live stream, right, and I showed you the because somebody asked about the Paleo Hebrew, the ancient Hebrew, and how it relates, and I did that. And then some comments were made, and I just want to show you, okay, an example of something and how it interrelates. Now, I'm not going to do this all the time, but I think that this is important to do this one last thing on this Brashith thing. I'm telling you, there are hidden sacred meanings in this for those who thirst and hunger after righteousness and who use the word to interpret the word. Not put in your own, you know, desires, prejudices, traditions, or whatever. It's in the language. So let me show you this. I told you, whoops, sorry, I hit the tripod there. I told you it was one run-on word from the first letter of Genesis to the last letter of Deuteronomy. And you can break that down into all kinds of different ways. And we've just settled on one that everybody agrees with. Okay, basically is what it's come down to. You know, we're just agreeing that that's how it should be broken down. But let me show you a little thing. I've talked about Notarkon, I've talked about Thashrak and Temura, Gematria, and all those. And those aren't just things that were invented by black Kabbalists, like so many people would like to believe. Okay? So let's go back to Brashith here one more time. And like I said, if I really broke this thing down in the ways that I could, it would challenge the conscience of Christians. It would challenge the traditions, and they can't handle that because you can't give someone milk when they, or rather, you can't give them meat when all they can absorb is milk. They have to work up to it. They have to understand. Let me just point one thing out to you. Are the animals in our world that procreate, okay, are they liable for sin? Yeah, it gets pretty violent out there for survival, right? But I'm going to ask you, in their state of innocence, which is really what it is, do they procreate? They do, don't they? So, why is it that you think that mankind can't procreate in innocence? In other words, prior to the fall. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay. It's in the language, ladies and gentlemen. It's telling you who we are, what we are, who and what we are to become, who and what we are to become. Let's look at Brashith last time, I guess. If we decided to break this word down, remember I said one continuous run-on word from Genesis, and I know I keep saying that, to Deuteronomy. Let's decide that we're going to break it down differently to find another meaning that God wanted us to see. Let's divide the word Brashith between the aleph and the shin. Now, you don't have to believe me. You can go look this up. Get a Gesenius, a Hebrew Greek lexicon, and you can do all of this yourself. You don't have to trust me. You do have to be careful of vowels and context. But beyond that, because there were no vowels, there were no vowel points in the original Torah. Okay? So you could have those other additional meanings, but that's what I'm saying. This thing can stretch into eternity. All the truths of eternity are there. So we're going to take Brashith and we're going to divide it right between the aleph and the shin. Now we have two separate words. But how does that relate to the story of Genesis? Well, let's examine it. Bra means create, to create, created. No big surprise there, right? At least I hope not. But create what? And for what purpose? What is the purpose of that creation? Let's go to the second word now that we've divided it. Sheath. What does it mean? It can mean attire. You create an attire. Our bodies for our spirits. It also means create, to place something. To put into place. To set. To make. Create something to make something. Do you see the interrelations of these things and the windows of understanding that open up to you when you study this language from a non-linear method? When you let the windows of heaven open to your eyes so that you have understanding and then wisdom. I won't say any more today. But think about this. The word that everyone translates, Brashith, in the agreed translation in Genesis is in the beginning. And I showed you the story of how in the beginning is actually also the story of salvation with the cross. I showed you that 2 videos ago. And then today on the live stream I showed you the paleo and how it interrelates. And now I'm showing you that you can also divide this word. And this is just one example where this shows that to create was to give an attire, clothing, to set a place, to put something, to make. Do you see? That's all I'll do here for today. Really, honestly, this will be the last one. The wonders of our creation are set before us. Jesus said, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And there are those who want to find fault with the truth of that. Indeed, our creation, what we do here on earth, is a mirror of what we do when we're with God. The only difference is that apparently somehow the sin of the matter is removed. And I'll just leave it at that. So there we go. Infinite numbers of divisions of the words to come up with interpretations that strengthen, that edify, that explain, that interpret. And you can do it all with the language. God bless you and yours out here for now. All right. Till next time.